guys, welcome to Better Bachelor. My name is Joker with a face for radio and a voice for print. You'll notice I'm touching a little bit more on normal everyday news stories a bit more because as things ramp up, as things get crazier and crazier, more laws are coming out against men, against parents, against the sane and reasonable one in a relationship, which, let's face it, usually the emotional ones are the women and the men's are the ones that make the most sense and tend to hold the line, as it were. California just came out with a new law that is going to decimate fathers, men, parents in general, that want to trust reality and want to protect their kids, I guess is the easiest way to say it. And California is kind of fallen. And for those of you that say, oh, I'm in a red area, or I'm in the South where it's a little bit more conservative, or we don't have these other issues to worry about, California law is California law all the way across the state. And I think it's time that while home values are still good and things haven't fallen completely off a cliff, which they're starting to, might be time to leave. If you look in the big cities, that's where most of the problems are right now. You know, you've got San Francisco, you got Los Angeles, a lot of them where people can do illicit substances right out in the open street. It is now okay to vandalize a home up to $750 worth of damage, and the police will not even bother showing up. California is passing a law where if somebody's stealing things from you, it's to protect, they say it's to protect the shop owners, so that if someone goes in and steals something, that you can't go after them. And basically it legalizes theft. It legalizes criminals. And again, this is not necessarily LA. It's going all throughout California. So you're going to see crime increase. People that are doing bad things are being released on bail or are being let free back onto the streets. It's just not going to be safe. Things haven't fallen completely off yet, but I honestly think it's a good time to leave if you're not kind of in bed with the left. I will tell you, I moved here to Tennessee, and at first I didn't really notice any differences because where I was living before wasn't really crazy and everything. But one thing I've noticed is I see families, I see married couples, I see a lot more families walking around holding hands with kids and family units. I've seen that more here in Tennessee than almost any place else that I've ever lived. And to be honest, I kind of like it. It's normal. Well, this is a video. Let me see if I can find who this is. This is State Senator. He's a Republican on the California State Judicial Committee. Anyway, here's his name, Scott Wilk. Scott Wilk, sorry, W-I-L-K. Scott Wilk, Republican from Santa Clarita, is the lone Republican on California's Senate Judiciary Committee. So he's the only Republican there. And this is what he has to say about California. And I think this is, when you hear a senator that represents the state saying, as soon as my term is done, I'm leaving and I think you should too, I think that's a pretty strong statement. Now, maybe he just feels he won't get elected, but I have a feeling he's leaving. I know you guys, many of you guys don't necessarily like Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire. Like, I get all that. They also left California. You know, Joe Rogan left California. A lot of people are leaving California just because it's gone so crazy. Anyway, here's what the senator has to say about California.
I'm now in year 11 in the state legislature, and all the time we're proposing policies to protect children. After 11 years, I've come to the conclusion that we need to start protecting parents. That's just not happening. I've been here and witnessed a full frontal assault on charter schools, taking away parents' choice and how their children are going to be educated, to the detriment particularly of children of color. In recent years, we have put government bureaucrats between parents, children, and doctors when it comes to medical care. And now we have this, where if a parent does not support the ideology of the government, they're going to be taken away from the home. Now, I agree with both Senator Wiener and Senator Laird that today it only involves divorce proceedings. And frankly, a judge can already factor this in. But I can assure you it's not going to end with divorce proceedings. In the past, when we've had these discussions and I've seen parental rights atrophied, I've encouraged people to keep fighting. I've changed my mind on that. If you love your children, you need to flee California. You need to flee. We are moving towards the pathway of the Handmaid's Tale. California is becoming the new Gilead, and it just breaks my heart. I'm born and raised in this state. I love this state. I'm not going to stay in this state because it's just too oppressive, and I believe in freedom, and so I'm going to move to America when I leave the legislature.
Now, what he's talking about here is a new law here that in a divorce proceeding, whoever is the most affirming to having their boy become a girl or a girl become the boy will win custody. And what this means is that if mom decides she wants to win custody 100%, all she has to do is say, oh, my kid is, my boy wants to become a girl or girl becomes the boy. The father says, no, this is not true. She's just doing it for custody. And the court system will find in favor of her because she's the one willing to affirm the change. This is from the California Globe. Senate Judiciary Committee passes bill to require parents to affirm the changing of their children. California Judiciary Committee just heard and passed Assembly Bill 957 by Assemblywoman Lori Wilson, Democrat, and a woman, surprising, in which a parent could lose custody for not affirming or agreeing to a child's claims about their identity. The bill, co-authored by Senator Scott Weiner, Democrat, San Francisco, would require judges adjudicating such disputes over the way the children are identifying to favor the parent who affirms the kid's preferred identity. So in other words, all they have to do is say, nope, the mother needs to say, nope, he wants to be a she, he. And if the kid's 2 and there's really no way to tell, obviously, or 4 or whatever, the judge is required to give custody to the woman or the parent that is saying that. But let's face it, we know this is mostly women. Hundreds of parents attended the hearing to oppose the bill, but none of that mattered to the Democrats who voted to pass the bill anyway. Assemblywoman Wilson said her bill, acknowledging TGI, kids, which is, of course, changing diversity and intersex, was needed, and I'm watching these words because of YouTube, was needed to address parents agnostic to their child's identity. Several statistics about the kids and self-deletion were used in arguments, but they didn't want to hear it. So not only do you have now, if you get divorced in California, and I think I pulled this up, I'll see if I can find it in a second. But anyway, California law is basically, if you're married for 10 years, the judge can determine you have to pay her alimony forever, pretty much. And they can determine, like there's several cases that are out there that where a man was on TV or he was an actor and he's making very good money. And when that fell off, they said, doesn't matter. You still need to pay it. You still need to find work to pay that $50,000 a month. And it ends up breaking the men. So not only do you have that, but now you have the fact that if a mother decides to say, oh, my kid's, wants to be the opposite, she will get custody 100%. But there's another law now that happened in Texas where a mom took the kid away from dad in Texas and fled to California to make their son become their daughter. And there was nothing that the father could do about it. This is also from the LA Times. Newsom signs bill protecting changing youths and families fleeing red state policies. And what it does basically is they call it a sanctuary state. And so a mother can take a father and a mother can take their kid away from the father, run to the state, and California will protect her. And there's nothing that the father can do. In the case of Texas, he lost. And we're getting to a point now, and this is why I'm talking about this stuff more. I know they're not my most popular videos, but I'm telling you, you've got to pay attention to these crazy laws because the United States is falling apart fast. And we've got Trump now being indicted for things that just about every other politician in upper government has done. And they're only going after him, in the meantime keeping a blind eye to Biden. And whether you like either one of them or don't like either one of them, the point is they're now using the law to go after their opposition. And then when you look at the news like this one, That's enough of that. CNN anchor gets upset over footage of Trump meeting with supporters after the court appearance. MSNBC stopped airing one of Trump's speeches because they said, "Oh, we're not gonna let you hear what he has to say because he's lying." So the media is now determining what is and isn't true for you to hear. And Fox News is doing the same thing. Fox News chyron, wannabe dictator, speaks at the White House after having his political rival arrested. And that was the chyron below Biden giving a speech. Now you've got the news media jumping in and telling you what you need to think and what you need to do and what's going on and what. I got a couple of videos I'm going to play. Because of the language in them, I'm only going to play them over on Locals. So if you're not over on betterbachelor.locals.com, please become a supporter today, or just a member. You can see it over there. I'd appreciate if you were a supporter because it allows me to, still make an income even if YouTube decides to demonetize stuff, which they have been recently on some of my recent videos. And there's just too much editing, and I got stuff to do, so I can't play these over on YouTube. But join me over on Locals for the rest of it. I think things are really looking to fall apart. If you look at what's happening in a lot of the big cities, if you look at what's happening in some of the states, and the ideologies that they are pushing forward, then you look at our debt limit and the inflation and the monetary policies. We are in for such a hard landing and such a bad time coming up. And I think the way that you can maybe scratch through okay on this is get to a state where the government's not going to mess with you. In some cases, that's Florida, maybe Tennessee. Texas hasn't been doing great because a lot of their big cities have become blue. But California and New York and Jersey and some parts of Pennsylvania, man, things are getting rough. Baltimore. Things are getting rough where it's literally not safe. The cost of your food and your medicine and your insurance and everything is going to skyrocket because of these policies they're putting through. And because now the media is so quick and so comfortable in lying and only telling you what they want you to hear, a lot of people are walking into this blind. They're not realizing how bad things are going over between Ukraine and Russia. They're going bad for Ukraine. They don't realize that we're losing the petrodollar. They don't realize that inflation is causing people to lose their cars. There's a channel I watch here on YouTube about used cars and new car pricing and things like that, just because I enjoy that kind of thing. He's walking around car lots saying no new cars are getting sold. There's repos that even the repossessions are not getting purchased because the banks are repoing a record number of cars. And now the prices are so insane on these because people, when they bought them, the prices were insane, that they can't sell them. So what they're doing is they're selling them cheaper and cheaper or just storing them on a lot until hopefully they can make their money back. You've got, I just heard San Francisco, one of their malls, like a shopping mall, the owner of the mall, the property company or the company that owns the property of the mall is walking away. They couldn't even sell it. So they're just like, we're not going to pay this $300 million or $30 million or whatever it was for the building. We're just giving it back to the bank. And that's happening in record numbers in San Francisco and in Los Angeles and in San Diego, or excuse me, not San Diego, Portland. Wrong state, wrong city. In Seattle, that's what I meant to say, in Seattle. That these cities are just crumbling, and the people that are running the states and the cities, they're letting it happen. I think it's time to leave California. I genuinely do. Before property values fall off, before things get and so many people are like, oh, it's normal around me. It is for now, and that's when it's good to get out. You don't want to wait till everything's falling apart and then say, oh my gosh, man, I wish I'd sold before the market collapsed or whatever. You may have to take a ding on your house just to get out. But I'll tell you, I've been in Florida. I've been in Texas. I've been in Tennessee. I've also been out in Montana. And when I did my drive through the United States, I drove through some of the cities that I'm talking about today. Things are not good, and they're just going to get worse. All right, guys, that's all I got for the YouTube. I'll have another video out here, probably right behind this one, about this crazy, this, this crazy chick. She goes viral for how to end a date with a girl to get a second date, and I'll just talk about that one and that one. So if you're over here on YouTube, make sure to join me over there.